All right, welcome to episode 2 of the Vented Media Podcast. I'm one of the co-hosts, Dylan Justin,
I'm Ben Ames.
and welcome to our second podcast. Dude, last week's podcast was pretty awesome. Like, when you told me, like, the analytics of, like, oh, we got 9 cents, I'm like, whoa, like, that's
Right?
crazy. And so, no, welcome to week 2, everyone. Thank you so much for the support. All 9 listeners that we have so far, each of you mean the world to us.
It's actually
So
gone up to 10 last time I checked. So, number 10, 10 cents in ad revenue. Let's go. We're making it big. We are close to buying a Sony FX9.
getting there. Well, maybe not. We'll get into our video news in a second. We'll talk about something that came out that's new. So,
Yeah.
oh
Yeah.
man, how was your week? How was it for you in the video world?
It's been pretty good. You know, we're both in school, so it's been a lot of homework, a lot of kind of menial stuff. I did get to start a job, so I started a job at the BYUI production office, which is basically their closet full of all their fancy cinema equipment. And holy crap, this is an absolute wonderland for me.
I
I
bet.
love it. It is. Oh, I can't even. I'm still in shock that I got this job. But I spent the first day, they handed me the teleprompter and this little joystick that controlled the Ursa Minis in the studio to frame up shots, and they're like, "Yeah, you seem capable enough. Let's give you a little practice, and then we'll see if you can do it on your own." And so I
Right.
did. That was my first day. That was awesome. Second day, I was um, was a lot more chill, but we ended up doing updates on the Sony FX9s, right? And for those of
Mhm.
you who don't know, the Sony FX9 is like a $12,000 camera. And here they give me an SD card and they're like, yeah, figure out how to update the firmware on this. I'm like, okay. And I'm personally a PC user, but they use Macs there. And so there's a little bit of an adjustment as this is my first time using a Mac in probably about 10 years.
Mhm.
Oh, okay, that's not true. I had a little bit of an old MacBook that I had my first year of college. So it hasn't been that long, but I definitely knew nothing about file organization then. So yeah. Um, but here I am. I download the firmware, I plug it in, I'm following the instructions, and we realize as we're going through, because somebody else who works there is helping me with this, we realize that we didn't plug in we didn't plug it into the wall while running this update. And we stare at this camera for about 40 minutes because that's how long it takes for these updates to do.
Right.
We stare at this camera for 40 minutes and we're both like, you think it's going to explode? And we're checking the battery as, the battery's draining while the progress bar is going up. And we are so nervous because I'm like, it's my second day. I can't brick a $12,000 camera, you
Right.
know?
That's big. No.
Yeah, a very big no-no. So we're trying to come up with all these schemes like, okay, because it was a V-mount battery, right? And I
Right.
think one of the features of Sony is that it has two battery inputs in the back. Is that Sony
Mhm.
I'm thinking of, or is that the Red Komodo?
Um it depends. I think that the Sony Venice can do that.
Okay.
But either way, yeah.
Yeah. Basically, we're trying to see if we could switch out batteries or power sources without killing the dang thing.
Right. Like
The
a
answer,
hot swap.
yeah, the answer was no. There was just no way we could do it. And luckily, we get through. The update finishes. We've still got like 2/3 of battery life left, so it wasn't even down to the wire or anything like that.
Right.
But holy cow, yeah, I remembered to plug in each and every one of those cameras to the wall because I had to do it 2 more times after that.
Dude, that's pretty intense. That is a story that you will tell the newbies from now on, like, don't you do that.
Right, right.
So Yeah.
Oh
Well,
man.
that's cool though. No, that's cool, especially because I remember you text me like, dude, this is gonna look so good on a resume, and it is like, cause I mean, as much as I know about a lot of like these cameras and these cinema cameras as well, I really haven't touched a lot of cinema cameras. I've touched a lot of
Mhm.
DSLRs. I've touched a lot of mirrorless cameras. Like I remember when I first touched the Panasonic S S S1H.
Mhm.
That's like their new, it's Netflix approved, super cool camera. I remember the first time I touched it, I'm like, wow, this is awesome. But in cinema cameras, to an extent, I've hardly touched a lot of them.
Yeah,
Um,
there is a bit of a learning curve, I have to say, because DSLR, you've got everything laid out very simply,
oh yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
With a cinema camera, it's just a box with a bunch of buttons.
Right,
And at this job, they encourage, hey, learn the cameras, mess around with them, pull them out of their box, learn how to use them, because we don't want to come to a day where we have to broadcast and you don't know how to even turn the dang thing on.
right,
So, yeah, I've been able to mess around with those, but it's a learning curve. But once you get it, like it's pretty easy. But you have to
right.
spend like 5 to 10 minutes, maybe even 15, just looking at the side of the thing. Where is every button? How do I actually change the settings when I get into there? Because on the
Right.
FX9, you've got they've got their shutter speed, ISO, all those manual controls, but there's one dial that controls them all, and you have to
Mm-hmm.
select, you have to switch between ISO on the little menu. It's really weird, um,
Mm-hmm.
but once I got it, it was easy. So,
Right. Right. All comes down to practice. And that's like one time I was helping someone in my class or in our class, they
mhm,
had a project and they rented the Sony NX100.
mhm,
It's not a crazy camera, but from someone who doesn't even know how to work even just a simple, Sony little mirrorless camera or even a DSLR, like a little Canon Rebel, you
right,
know, if you don't even understand the basics of what does ISO, what is AV on it, what is,
mhm,
you just won't know. And so, no, I think it's cool that, you're going through and you're starting to play with it. I'm very, very, very jealous.
yeah,
So,
yeah. No, it's a good job. It's a really good job. Well, I got a couple more things, but I've been talking long enough. What about you, man? Tell me about your week.
it was good. It was good. We're getting into the last couple weeks of our uh class semester, and so right now I'm just like trying really hard to just, boom, 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 get it all out. And I'll be very grateful when the semester ends because I have projects that people want to work with me on, but I'm like, hey, I'm sorry, I have, you know, like between, even though it's two classes, I also work in the mornings every single morning during the weekday,
Hmm.
until like 6 o'clock at night. Basically, it's what's become with Christmas time coming around the way and people wanting their cabinets done.
Yeah.
And then coming home trying to squeeze in as much homework as I can, and also trying to squeeze in any photo shoots and whatnot. But I mean, it was a pretty good week. I'm getting more dialed in with my color correcting in Premiere Pro, which is awesome.
Nice.
But I'm really excited. I got my new light this week, which
Yeah.
it's awesome. It
That's
is
the
so cool.
Godox 150, correct?
Yep, the VL150.
Okay.
It is awesome. It's awesome. I've used it twice so far, and both times, like at one point for one of our class assignments that we have to do like our communications project or a career project where we have to like look at someone in the industry. And one of the things that I did, because I'm doing mine on online teaching
Hmm.
um, through video, I used my light to make it my key light, and then I had like my little itty bitty aperture Amron F7 as like my backlight fill light basically. And like I had to leave my camera at or not, I left it because base ISO is 800 when you're shooting in log.
Hmm.
My light was so powerful that I had to leave it at 2% because if it was any higher then I would start to look blown out.
Oh my goodness.
So it's a powerful light, and like even yesterday I used it for a project, and we were up against a big glass window,
Mm-hmm.
so you had all of this backlight, and you had really harsh shadows over here, but this is the side that you want to see for the video.
Right.
I cranked it up to 88% power. Like I still could have gone up 12%, but 88 was perfect to get it
Nice.
back to exposure against outside lighting.
Very nice.
But no, it's been fun to use. But I mean, other than that, I think it was a good week for me.
Well,
But yeah,
what's super cool, something you didn't mention, is this is actually, is this going to be a recurrent thing where I just pick up a pencil and start waving it around during the podcast?
I
I
don't
don't.
know. I was thinking about doing that with this thing, but I'm like, no, I gotta leave that on the thing because this is my stylus for messing with my tablet off to the side of us.
Yeah, I don't even notice it until it starts. The graphite starts rattling inside. Anyways, but one of the things that's really cool about this light you just bought is it's the budget version of like the professional version, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And even so, a lot of people, when they think of video lights, one of the big lights that people think of is the Aperture 120D.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very, very popular large chip LED. But for just one of those lights alone is almost $850,
Yeah.
which for a lot of people, that's a lot. I mean, $850, that's basically this camera right here in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
So people are like, ugh,
I mean
that's a lot.
that's more than I paid for the video editing setup, keyboard, mouse, and monitor, right here
Yeah,
combined. So
yeah, exactly. And so, when I buy something, I look at the market, look and see what people have and are using, and also try and see is there something because you hear people will say this light's an Aperture 120D killer,
mm-hmm.
and you look at it like not really because whether it overheats fast or it's really not that much brighter or it has bad color rendition, all these things put in place, it doesn't make an Aperture 120D killer. But this Godox, I have to say, it probably is the Aperture 120D killer for one being half the price,
Mm-hmm.
two the CRI color output makes all the colors just look so natural. It's not like it's like too cool or too warm. Like it is right where it says it is.
Nice.
It's got a little bit higher output, so at 60% on my light is like almost 100% on what the Aperture 120D is.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean it's a big it's 150 watts compared to 120 watts. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean that definitely helps. But I mean for that half the price and being a budget light, I can expect myself to pick up another one of these things in the future.
Right.
I could have two of these lights and I'd still be at the price of one Aperture 120D.
Yeah, absolutely. One thing I was looking at recently, actually, because I mean, my lighting setup, it's not the greatest, right? I've got a lamp that I'm bouncing off the wall and the ceiling for diffusion. I actually turned the ceiling one off. Anyways, and then I've got another lamp behind me that I'm using as a little bit of a backlight. Basically things I find around the house, right? And
Hmm.
so I was looking at the Aperture Mini 20s,
Yeah. Yeah.
and because we have stockpiles of those at work, and it's what all the students check out. And
Hmm.
I was like, well, how much are these? These ought to be cheap, right?
Right.
And I go on Aperture's website because I can't find them on B8H, I can't find them on Adorama, can't find them anywhere.
Right.
And first off, they're only selling them in a set of 3,
Right.
and it's $700.
Right.
And from what I'm hearing is like these are supposed to be the cheap, crappy lights that, while do what they're supposed to do, they're supposed to be the more friendly, eco-friendly ones. Eco-friendly, not like
Like money
environment
wise, budget.
money wise.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Budget
you.
friendly.
But yeah, they're still $700. It's kind of insane to me just how quickly everything adds up. Since we're on
Hmm.
this topic, this was kind of supposed to be our third topic, but do you want to kind of switch to our like um, our gear topic now, like kind of what we've invested in, what we regret.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, we can totally do that. Yeah, so basically for what our plan is for our podcast in the future, just so there's a little bit more organization, we're basically, run through our week, talk about if there's any photo news, which for both something for both of us, there'll be a little bit of photo news.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then we also want to do like just a segment where we're kind of learning and looking at, what have we learned from the past, uh, little maybe tips and tricks, something that we could do, and this, even if we do like a Q&A question about, something that Ben might know versus something that I might know.
Right.
And so, we're going to go through this. So this week for our third segment of something that we've learned, um, I was kind of thinking about this throughout the week because I've kind of got to a point where I have enough stuff
Right.
where I can say, oh, maybe I need to now upgrade to something a little bit different, or oh man, I wish I hadn't got that. Should I sell it, or what have it be?
Mm-hmm.
But we kind of wanted to go over this section, which is gear and what I wish I got. And
And
so I first
also
kind
the
of
things that we wish we didn't get.
exactly things that we wish we didn't get. And so I broke it off into like three things. I'll start off with the things that I wish I got sooner,
Mm-hmm.
because this is gear that I now have, but it's gear that I don't think I could live without.
Yeah.
So the first one that I love to death, I can't even tell you how much of a game changer this has been for me.
Is this your little
But
$15 light?
no,
Oh.
no, actually, this is my external monitor. Okay.
Okay.
Um, a lot of people are like, oh, okay, this is gonna get a little bit expensive, but no, you can get, for people who are trying to be on a budget, you can get an external monitor for like, if it depends on where you look at
Mm-hmm.
and who makes it and what quality it is,
Right.
but you can get an external monitor for like $90.
Yeah.
Not super expensive, but the reason why I love my external monitor is like I'll go on to like a shoot, and I'll talk about some more bits of my setup later, but there's times when I'm holding my camera and you're looking at a little itty bitty screen,
Right.
and if you're trying to look at all this information on thing like, oh, what's this, how do I do this, it just clogs up everything.
Mm-hmm.
But with my monitor, I mean, I turn it on, it's connected to my camera, and I can see what the camera's seeing. I can be at a low, the camera can be at a low angle, but I can have this tilted up so I can see it from a better spot.
Right. So you don't get like weird distortion on your like while trying to view it, and it just yeah, you get like precise straight on angle. You're
Yep.
looking at exactly what you want to see.
Yep. This is the Fear World F6 Plus. This monitor, I mean, this is a $200 monitor,
Mm-hmm.
and some people are like, well, that's $200. But like I said, you can get other ones. But the
Right.
reason why I like this one is just how well built it is.
Mm-hmm.
And also the include features. There's, if I'm trying to make sure that I'm nice and in focus, there's focus peaking built into it. There's one thing that I've started really using, which has made a world of difference, is false colors, and I'll have to talk
Mm-hmm.
about that on a different one.
Okay.
But like how that helps me get proper exposure without looking at something like a histogram, because histogram kind of can be a little bit iffy,
Right.
depending on how the camera is. But false colors, there's so many good things from this monitor that I'm just so happy. So I mean, I'm not. This isn't sponsored by. Let's put this out there. Unless
Unless
Phil
you want
Wolf, you
to,
are
right?
listening, you can sponsor us.
We
I will have no problem with that.
we have an established 10 viewer audience, so
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
get you'll get your name out there.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, people will buy your stuff. So
Give us discounts, please.
yeah, please, we are on a budget. We are poor college students. But anyway, so yeah, that's my first thing. Obviously my second thing is, and it's gear that I wish I got sooner in this category,
Mm-hmm.
because now that I have it, I love it.
Right.
My second thing is my light.
Yeah.
My first video light that I ever got was this little itty bitty Insignia insignia. I think that's how you pronounce it. But it's this little. I think it's like 80 80 bulbs or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is. It's not actually. I think it's only 64. There's 64
Okay.
LEDs in it. But I mean, I remember when I got this thing, I was like, "Whoa, that's awesome!" And like, it's not super impressive, but it had a little dial, so I could kind of like dial in the light, and maybe if I want to. I mean, I've used it before when that light up there dies, but now
Mm-hmm.
it's all hooked up, so it's all good and dandy. But this light is so small. It's such a small concentrated source, and even my other.
Ooh, we lost your video feed there, bud. Technical problems. We're gonna
Give
fix
me.
them.
Yep. Let me see. I might not have plugged in my. Let's see.
May not have plugged in your camera to a power source.
I thought it should be charging,
Oh,
but
there
let
it
me make
goes.
sure. It says that full power. I don't know what's going on.
Maybe the capture card came undone.
I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but it looks like it's going now.
Oh, okay.
We'll see. We'll see if it keeps going. If not, I'll switch to a little webcam.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'll have to quickly find the webcam. I'll have to take a quick little intermission. But but anyway, so but even my little aperture Amron, as great as it is, oh, my camera, did it overheat? Is that what that is?
Huh.
It Oh, internal temperature allowed to cool. Okay.
Ooh.
Um,
So, yep, there
give me
it
one.
goes again.
Give me one sec.
Ladies and gentlemen, we will be right back.
We'll make this work for right now.
Okay. Yeah.
So I don't know why it's never had an overheating warning,
That's
but
interesting.
well, yeah. Oh, well, now you guys can see a little bit more into my room.
With a big
Let me
old
just.
like, is that a C stand you've got behind you? On your.
So that's just my little backdrop stand, and basically
Mhm.
what it is I use it to put my little light up behind me.
Okay.
But no, that's interesting. Oh well, we'll let it cool down for a second, then we'll switch back. But it's never happened before. We've done longer podcast things than that. It is a little bit warmer in my room today.
Mm.
I'm trying to. It's now getting into the winter time, so I had to use my heater, and I live in the basement. So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, but oh well. We'll make do with what we got.
Oh yeah.
Anyways, so um, but no, one thing, hopping back into it, my
Mhm.
lights. I wish I had gotten sooner, and I love my Godox, but that can be at someone's price range, and if that's the case, really look at the budget things that you can do. Like you can use a bulb, kind of like what, even though like Ben's only using his, he's using two lamps
Yeah.
right now. His lighting, like compared to last week, having that backlight source behind him, it looks awesome. Like it looks so good.
Yeah. Um it's a good combination between. I can't believe I stuttered that much just there. It's a good combination between finding um a light source and being creative with it and knowing what you're doing with it.
Right.
Because say someone who bought your Godox, right?
Right.
And they just put it on themselves 66% while they were inside, they're
Mm-hmm.
probably going to look like a ghost, right?
Right.
Um, and so, you know, budget options, they're feasible. I don't think anybody should be scared of budget options. Um, but they also have to be aware of, what am I giving up? Is it am I losing quality in the manufacturing? Is it going to
Mm-hmm.
last for a less amount of time? What trade off is it between having that kind of lower price?
Right. Yeah, exactly. No, that's what it is, honestly, when it comes down to it. Um, but yeah, just fishing out in the market and seeing what you can get for the price. But that will definitely make the difference. And the last thing that I wish I got sooner, um, one sec, I should have had this out on my desk already.
Mm-hmm.
But the last thing that I wish I got was my variable ND filter.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know what a variable ND filter is, some of you probably do, if you watch any YouTube video. But so this is a variable ND filter. It kind of just looks like a little filter, but the cool thing is when you go back and forth, you can kind of see if you look at me, it gets lighter and darker. It actually might not because
Oh, there
yeah,
we go.
you can see it. Yeah. So it gets lighter and darker, and I cannot tell you how many times I'd go on to like a shoot, before I started getting more serious, and it would just like I'd have to either adjust the shutter speed way high or adjust the aperture way high,
Mm-hmm.
and I could never shoot in the way I wanted. And that variable ND filter, it is $50, $60.
Right.
Now people will be like, "Oh, you shouldn't get a cheap one," but honestly, we're budget, and for how much I've used it, people can't tell that that's what it was.
Right.
Like it just point blank, you can't tell. And so those are like the three things that I have right now: my light, my external monitor, and the variable ND filter that really made a huge difference to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like if people were to do that, they would like get at least three things. Like this will get you a little bit farther.
Right.
Even I could even exclude the external monitor because people are like, oh, I can't afford that. You're right. But getting a light and getting a way to cut out unnecessary light,
Mm-hmm.
those two things alone are going to affect your image so much.
Yeah. Because lighting is everything in an image, right? It helps.
Right.
It helps to sculpt your subject. It is what is going to determine the amount of background blur you have in an image. Um, so, for example, a variable ND filter is actually going to be my next investment come Christmas time, right?
Right.
And I'm so excited because I probably talked about these last week. I don't care. I love them. I'm going to talk about them again. But I've got these vintage Nikon lenses that I got from my grandfather-in-law. And, come when we get a little adapter to fit them onto my Sony camera. These things, 50-year-old lenses, but they open up to an aperture of f1.4, which is going to give you stupid good background blur, right?
Right.
But the problem
Right.
is, if I go outside and shoot, I don't have that range in my camera.
Right.
And so
Exactly.
I what Dylan was kind of talking about there is controlling the light in a way to best suit your image. Because we're going to be in situations where we're in low light and we need to add light. We're going to be in situations where we're going to be in like high, harsh light and we need to subtract light, whether that's throwing a bit of diffusion above your subject, or the ND filter, which basically, right, if you don't know what an ND filter is, it's basically like sunglasses for your camera.
Right.
And there is almost never going to be a situation where you've got the perfect lighting as you want it, right? Now, you can use the lighting you've got, and you can get great results with it, but you will almost never have the exact lighting, at least not for an extended period of time.
Yeah. No, you won't. And the best thing the reason why I like using that aperture, that variable ND filter is having that constant aperture. It will allow your stuff to go seamless between situation and situation.
Yeah.
But instead of like having to adjust the settings on your camera, you can just simply take and twist it, and now oh, it's a little bit darker. Oh wow, now it's a little bit brighter.
Right.
And you can just go from location to location just with one simple little piece of glass. And you can get expensive ones. You can get some that go up to $300, $400, $500.
Right.
But I mean, usability wise, this thing, I I love it. It's great. I use it all the time, and it fits my budget. That's the biggest thing. It fits my budget.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
But
So,
now
oh,
there's
sorry.
things that I wish I didn't get,
Yeah, yeah.
and so
Well,
no.
what are those, Dylan? Why
What
don't you
are
tell the
those?
class?
Why don't I tell the class? So the three things that I wish I didn't get. Okay, number one, my gimbal.
Mhm.
Okay, I love my gimbal. I have it. Honestly, it doesn't even matter. It's just a gimbal. It doesn't matter whether my gimbal it's Zion Weeble S. It could have been the Crane 3. It could have been the Ronin the Ronin S. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. I got this gimbal because it's kind of become like almost an industry standard.
Yeah.
Like you at least need to have one. Because for long walking shots you can't beat a gimbal. It just smooths out everything. I've loved it every single time I've used a gimbal. But I don't use it as often as I would like to because it's big, it's clunky when I go and try to um adjust a shot, I have to, get my gimbal up and say, "Oh, now okay, now it's in the frame that I want," and move it.
Right.
And by the time it would take me to get one shot, I can get two or three other shots, other angles, different things. And it depends on the situation. Maybe you have that ability where you can get multiple shots, but in a lot of the times I don't get that. Especially like I've used it, like my camera on a wedding.
Mhm.
It was great, but I can't with my gimbal. If I'm like, oh, this would be really great. It would be awesome for me to get this nice little almost pan shot. Oh, let me adjust my camera. Oh, let me do this. Let me do this.
Right.
The moment's come and gone.
Yeah.
And so, like, an alternative for what I've got, and I want to give a big shout out to Mark Bone. He's off of YouTube. He's a filmmaker documentarist.
Please come on the podcast, Mark Bone.
Please come on the podcast, Mark Bone. We love you. Um, but I got a top handle. I got a cage and top handle, and Ben's gonna be getting one here soon.
Mhm.
That is one of the things that he wants. But oh my goodness, having this cage top handle when I'm walking, like there may be a little bit of sway, but it's so natural, and I can go from a low shot to a high shot to angle. And I got this top handle that I could just easily put my monitor on, and I just take and just slide it into this little cold shoe up top, and all of a sudden now after I get it all adjusted to where I need to go, now I am rocking and rolling with a very portable, easy setup
Yeah.
that, I mean, my gimbal, as awesome as it is $400, okay?
Mhm.
With the entire cage setup, okay,
Yeah.
it was still under 300.
Yeah.
And
Is that
so
with your monitor or?
that is
Okay.
even with the monitor. And so like I'd still have an extra $100 in my pocket, which
Yeah.
that could go towards working on getting another light or getting an adapter for your camera
Yeah.
or so many other things.
Yeah.
And so
So what I'm
yeah.
kind of taking away from that, right, is tools are supposed to make the job easier for you, right?
Right.
And if your tools are not making your job easier, they're not worth it.
Right.
It's now that can be whether you've just got the Ron tool, right, or you went a little too budget, right, and you're having
Yeah.
to do a bunch of workarounds. Which if that's all that you can do at the moment is totally fine, right? Because if you learn how to do all those workarounds with budget equipment, you are going to be fantastic when you get your hands onto professional equipment.
Oh yeah, for sure. And as much as the gimbal, like I said, it's in an industry standard. If you're going to be doing long walking shots, you're going to be, in the back of a car holding it, trying to get a car driving down. You can't you can do pretty steady shots in the back of a car.
Right.
Long walking shots, though, it's not. My top handle is not really meant for that.
Yeah.
But for every other shot that I need, I'd say that a top handle could probably get me almost 80% of them.
Yeah.
But my next thing that I wish I had invested in something else, and one of my rules I've told Ben is I don't buy nice things twice,
Yeah.
but this is the one thing where I've bought junk and junk and junk over and over again, and that is bad quality headphones.
Yeah.
Um, right now I'm rocking some Sony's. I'm not sure which ones these are. I think these are like the XM009s. These are great headphones. Are they a little bit pricey? Yes. However, after 5 or 6 other pairs of headphones,
Mm-hmm.
it would have equaled out to what these would have been.
Right.
And so jumping to this and finally getting these, listening to audio when I'm editing, it just a breeze. You're just like, wow, this is
Mm-hmm.
awesome. And I for you as a music person, headphones are probably super important because you need to be
They
able to listen
are.
to.
Yeah, no, they are. As someone who likes to record my own music and, even editing this podcast, right? I listen to my own voice a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And having the most accurate representation of what's going on is crucial. Now, I've also got some speakers. I've got one of the things you're supposed to do when mixing music is listen to it on as many different speakers as possible, whether that's your
Mm-hmm.
headphones, your phones, your studio monitors, your car speaker is a really big test that people do because that's where a lot of people listen to music, right? And um, but right, some people they don't have access to studio monitors, right?
Mm-hmm.
A good pair of headphones are crucial. I Yeah, I got mine. So when I came home from my mission, 2 years ago, yeah, it's 2 years ago because I was just talking to my one of my mission buddies from the MTC actually just got home and we were able to have a nice little phone call. So yeah, it's been 2 years. That's ridiculous. Um, but when I was sent home from my mission early, my parents, I guess they kind of pitied me a little bit, and they got me this Focusrite audio interface bundle, which had an audio interface, this microphone you see here, and these headphones. And I've been using these for 2 years now. I haven't had any problem with them. And this whole setup, right? $200 for a professional quality audio interface, microphone, and headphones. Sure, you can upgrade, right? And that's
Right.
what I really like. You can use this mic as a secondary mic if you want to upgrade, but I just haven't found the need to.
Right.
When it comes to headphones, though, I will recommend a great budget brand, and that is Audio Technica. My dad loves them. He's owned a couple of pairs throughout the years, and they're good quality. They sound amazing. They're built amazing, and they're dirt cheap. I believe the cheapest pair you can find on Amazon is like $50 for over-the-ear headphones,
Wow.
and that's for good over-the-ear headphones, right? The difference
Mm-hmm.
between $20 and $50 is a world of difference. It's
Really.
oh yeah.
Well, I mean, I should know. Like, I mean, it's the same thing for me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
but
so
no.
so if you are in the market of looking for headphones right now, whether you are doing any kind of audio editing, music, podcasting, video production, anything that involves audio at all, I'd heavily recommend Audio Technica. Yet again, not sponsored. Would love to be, but um, I just swear by them because they're fantastic.
Right. Yeah. No. I like I said, this is my thing that I wish I invested in sooner, and things I regret buying the
Hmm.
cheap, crappy headphones. And the last thing, and this could just be a personal thing. Other people love them. Action cams and GoPros. I have a GoPro. It's cool, but I haven't really found a need for it as often as I thought I was gonna use it.
Right.
It's cool. It's one of the Hero Sevens. I got it because it was a discontinued uh camera, but I got it because when it goes discontinued, prices get slashed on it.
Yep.
No businesses, they try and sell them off really fast from there. And so I got this GoPro Hero 7. It's great. It's great if I want to do any kind of unique shot. Like say I open up my fridge and I'm looking around in the inside of it.
Hmm.
It it works. It is perfect. It does what I need it to do. But at the end of the day, like I could have just used my phone because my phone has 4K. My
Yeah.
phone has the ability to change aperture and do a little bit higher quality video in a phone.
Hmm.
And I could have easily done that without an action cam.
Right. And I think the big thing about action cams is their stabilization. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yet again, what tools are you getting and why are you getting them? What's the actual work you got to get done? Um, because you don't want to bring what's a good analogy? I was like, you don't want to bring a hammer to something. I don't know something you wouldn't need a hammer for. You wouldn't want to bring a
You
hammer
don't
to
want you don't want to bring a hammer to inspect eggs.
yeah, you don't want to bring a hammer to inspect eggs or to your like ceramics class, something like
Right.
that. Um, and this GoPro, um, now if I used to be into kind of dirt biking a little bit, and that's actually how I broke my old phone. I took it with me on this little dirt track. We have this track in Rexburg, out past the Rexburg Rapids or whatever they're called, and I, just wanted to get some shots of me doing some jumps, and I wanted to practice them first, but I had my phone in my pocket. Biffed it, right?
Yeah.
Landed on
Yeah.
a rock, shattered my phone. But, right,
Right.
that kind of situation would have been perfect for a GoPro as opposed to
Right.
my phone, right?
Right.
Where you want that stabilization, you want that first person view, um, and it's a sturdy, hardy kind of very compact, solid thing. A phone is glass, right?
Right.
or
Yeah,
or,
for
or metal,
sure.
depending on like what kind of phone you get. But oops, uh, yeah, no, but yeah, it's very important to know what job you are going into and what tools you need for that, so you're not just coming around, not just coming around looking like a fool, uh, coming to a bike shop with a hacksaw.
Yeah, exactly, for sure. But that is those are the things, things I wish I got sooner. My external monitor, my light, my variable ND filter, things
Mm-hmm.
I wish I didn't get as soon. A gimbal, cheap headphones, and my action cam. Because thinking back to that, a gimbal, I know I want, because I am realizing now I want something with better audio. Okay.
Yeah.
So right now I'm looking at getting a better external microphone
Mm-hmm.
and even a Zoom possibly to plug it into.
Yeah.
Just for the two things, the gimbal and action cam right there is the money that would have
Mm-hmm.
been needed for it.
Well,
And so
I've been looking at audio because that's something, you know, well, one, I'm good at, and two, I want video audio because I can't take my setup out into the field, right? As much as
mhm.
I would want to. And the best combination I've kind of found right now is a Tascam DR40X with which, it's got two microphones built in that you can either face apart for stereo sound, face together for a more directional sound. But it also has two XLR inputs. And then you've got a, whatchamacallit? You've got this, I can't remember what the exact name of it is, but B&H sells these shotgun microphones, one for 70 and one for like $120. And the difference is the
Mhm.
length of them. Um, but if you combine the short microphone, which comes with its whole little protective case, a dead cat, a XLR cable, a shock mount, you just need to add a boom pole. Um,
Right.
Add that to the audio interface, and bam, you have got something for a little over $200. That's a very, very professional audio thing, which you could have bought two of those for the price of your gimbal.
Yep, exactly. And that is what I am now looking at. So, like you said, look at what you got, look and see what you actually need. Do I need the gimbal right now? Probably not.
Mm-hmm.
Is it awesome to have? Have I used it? Yes, I do, and I love it. But it's not my main thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But no, so
So
dude, that was a fun little section.
it wa-
I think that was a good little
real quick,
section to talk about.
I've got some stuff that I've got too.
Yeah, no,
So,
yo, go for it. Yeah, that's right.
so some things that I wish I hadn't got, right? Um, honestly, the studio monitors, right?
Okay.
They're nice, they're convenient. They're really convenient with my PC because they don't have my PC doesn't have external speakers, so it's really nice to have these. But I really cheaped out and spent $100 on a pair of Behringers, maybe about a year and a half ago. And
Okay.
Behringer is kind of like known as the bottom of the barrel brand in audio.
Okay.
And when it comes to audio equipment I have, right? This is probably my least not least used, but least needed. Because I've got a piano that I got when I was a music major and practicing piano more, and I mean I still use it to this day when I'm jamming out and all that stuff. I've got my guitar, which I bought off of eBay for like $80. But
Right.
these studio monitors, they don't do anything that my headphone doesn't do, right? Or that my headphones don't do.
Right.
And there's also the space I'm in, right? So with me being in a very boxy room, I've turned our little kind of like flex room in our apartment into my studio. And with us being in a boxy room, you get reflections and you get echoes, and there's a lot of distortion that comes when you play music off of the loud off of speakers.
Right.
Now, like I said, I do have this kind of wall to my left that is a closet. It's a curtain full of clothes, so that does help dampen it. But there's still 3 walls that sound is just bouncing off of constantly.
Right.
So it's kind of like the wrong tool in the wrong situation kind of deal, where I've got these bad boys. They're nice to have, especially when I want to play stuff out loud. But for the environment I'm in, it's just not the right tool.
Right.
It doesn't
For
give
sure.
me... these would sound a lot better in an acoustically treated room, or even one with carpet. I've got hardwood floor, which I know is actually kind of nice because a lot of people want hardwood floor over carpets. But like in this room at least, I want a carpet because that'll
It
just
dampens
help.
that sound.
It dampens
Yeah.
that sound. Yeah. And also for my neighbors, because sometimes I'll just be singing and I don't realize how loud I get. Haven't gotten a complaint yet, but I know they've been nice about it, but I know they hear it.
It could happen any one of these days, basically, is what you're saying.
Yeah. So there's that. There's my studio monitors. And then there's the issue of my computer, right? So
Right.
I'm running off of a PC, and I love it. Honestly, I had to beg my wife for months to be able to get this. But I had my PC built. For you PC nerds, I've got a Ryzen 3600, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM, a GTX 1660 with 6 gigabytes of VRAM in it, and it is a very capable video editing machine, right? I'm able to run Blender. I can run some physics simulations pretty smoothly. I can edit 4K footage like a dream, even with effects and layers and color correction. It powers through. But what I had to trade up for this PC was my laptop. And Here is one of the dangerous things about computers, right? And I knew more about computers when I had to was in the market for buying a laptop. So I probably bought a laptop. I think it was about a year ago that I bought this
Mm-hmm.
laptop. It was a HP Spectre 360, right? And for what I thought I was getting a great deal, right?
Right.
It included a 4K screen, which I loved. I still think that screen is phenomenal, and one of the things I miss about that laptop. 4K screen. It had 16 gigabytes of RAM, and I didn't know anything about graphics cards back then, so they just told me integrated graphics card, and I was in, right? Because I was like, oh,
Right.
integrated is, or no, it wasn't integrated. It was dedicated. I was like, oh yeah, dedicated graphics card. That's better than integrated graphics card. So obviously this is the way to go. Now there are pros and cons to buying a PC or a laptop over a PC, right?
Mm-hmm.
First off is portability.
Right.
I can't take my setup anywhere now, right? Which has been frustrating when I have had homework or deadlines I need to meet, right?
Right.
So that is one thing you give up if you go the PC route. But if you're like a dedicated video editor and you are looking at the difference between a PC and a laptop, I'd highly recommend going for a PC, because a laptop, you're going to run into so many problems. For example, you may say, they may say, oh, we've got this brand spanking new chip that is super powerful. Well, the problem is these chips and laptops, the processors, they're not as, they have to dumb them down for the laptop and make them slower and less powerful so that they sip less power, make the battery last longer. They whatchamacallit. They sip less power, make the battery last longer. For example, I think my laptop had a 10th generation i7 in it. My PC
Mine's got
has
an eighth
nice,
generation i7.
nice, which is still pretty good. My computer or my PC right now has a Ryzen 3600. Just taking a glance, you'd think the 10th generation, newest gen of Intel i7 should beat a Ryzen 5, because their numbers are
Right.
kind of like equal, right? Intel 5, Ryzen 5, Intel 7, Ryzen 7. That should be better. When in reality, they dumbed down the Intel chip, and this processor is so much faster than my laptop processor.
Right.
So there's that. Another thing is cooling. If you start running into overheating issues, your laptop is going to, again, dumb itself down so that the parts and the inside components don't melt. Now, this is true for PCs as well, but when you cram everything into a tiny little metal body, you are going to run into that heating issue very quickly, especially if you're doing it on your lap, if you're doing it on a hot day. Overheating becomes a real problem really quick and can mess with your performance. PCs,
Right.
you can deck them out with fans galore, right? I've got a Thermaltake Cube case, which, I mean, I'm not really picky when it comes to cases, but I'm glad I got this case, because the literal front of it is just one giant fan, and it's silent, but it keeps everything cool, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, my fan's been going on my laptop this entire time.
yeah, right? And that's another thing. If you're doing music production and you're trying to record, but you've got this noisy little laptop fan, that's going to be difficult, right? That makes
Right.
things it actually made our last podcast difficult, because I
Right,
was
which
trying
is why my
to
microphone, yeah, my microphone's right here now today, so that we don't get as much fan noise.
hopefully we'll see when we edit it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so laptops generally you are going to get less performance for the price, because of the several restrictions. Now, PCs, you have the option to build them yourself, right? Now, if you go
Right.
through a custom builder like I did, they can charge fees, anywhere from like $100 to $300. I think when I had mine built, they charged like $200 to have mine built. But in the end, I ended up paying $600 for this PC, and it it just runs so much smoother than the laptop. And but if you are a traveler and you do need that kind of travel, then get a gaming laptop. Honestly, I know it's not professional, but you will thank not only the cooling but the power that you get. So yeah, that's what I kind of I wish. In short, after that whole long, boring rant, sorry if your eyes
Wasn't
glazed
boring.
over.
It wasn't boring.
But yeah, basically, really look into the computer you're gonna buy. And you know what? If you're a Mac guy, I respect you. Not really, but if you are using a Mac, that is another kind of downside. You will pay more for less power, but I will give it to Mac. They have a very good longevity, and they will be able to be used for years. But on the flip side, that's kind of what I like about PCs is you're not tied down to any component, right? Because my
Right.
graphics card in here is already 2 years old, and the reason I bought the 2 years old and 2 years old one as opposed to the 1 year old one, like the GTX 1000 series as opposed to the 2000, because 3000 was right around the corner, and with those GPUs being like incredibly cheaper, and if I wanted to upgrade, I'd rather spend less on a decent GPU now and save that money for the future, right?
Right.
So you get the opportunity to upgrade. Anyways, that's nerdy computer talk with Ben. Just
Dude, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of it.
be careful when you buy computers. There's so much so many buzzwords and like flashy things that just they'll trap you. They've trapped me. So yeah, be
Yeah.
careful.
Yeah. But no, this was definitely our first section. It's definitely drawn on a little bit longer than we were thinking. But our first like learning section, we talked about things that we would. I mean, this brings a bit to the point. Like, there's people like we are a little bit ahead of the game for some beginner filmmakers. We have some gear, we have some equipment, and so now we know. And this was our opportunity to share what we think people should avoid or invest in.
Yeah,
And so I think this was very good. So I really enjoyed this section, and we're gonna do more. Hopefully, it won't be as long in the future.
yeah.
But
That's my bad. Oopsies.
no. I think it's both. I think it's both of ours. We're still. This is our second episode. Please give us a break, guys. But no. So this allows us. This is continuing to be a learning process for us.
Yeah. And,
But I do.
and when we do these like learning segments, sorry, didn't mean to interrupt you there.
No.
When we're doing these learning segments, we don't mean to come across as like we have all the answers. It's more of we've messed up, learn from our mistakes so you don't have to make the same mistakes.
Exactly. 100%. But no, that was our first learning section. Really, I think for us, we're gonna keep doing this. We're gonna keep learning, and we're gonna get some more tips and tricks in the future. I'm very excited.
Yeah.
So, but we do want to do one more little section before we do our little closing section. So technically there's 4 sections, but besides the point, we do want to do something called photo or video news. I'm sorry, photo news. That
Yeah.
was if anyone knows who Jared Poland is, he used to have his own podcast and he'd call it photo news. But so for us, it's video news because this is a video podcast. So basically, video news. There's been a few things that have been exciting for the both of us. For one on Ben's side, me on my side. So we'll start with my side first.
Yeah.
This week, Sony has finally released and announced the full specs of the brand new Sony FX6. It's awesome. Basically, in a very simple way to say it, it's the Sony A7S III, but on steroids.
Yeah,
Um,
and in a cinema
they
camera's body.
in a cinema camera's body. They did a lot of great things. And looking at my little spec sheet off the side of me, it's got a 4K full frame sensor. For people who are wondering about sensor size, we'll do an episode on that, and if that really does make a difference. But if people are wanting a full frame sensor
Mm-hmm.
for what this camera is, it's amazing.
Well, we could actually do that because I've got an ASP size sensor, and your A7S or A7 III has a full frame, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, yeah. No,
Yeah.
we'll definitely do an episode on that. It
Okay.
will be a very good beneficial episode, I think, for people to realize as good as it is. It also isn't the make it or break it thing.
Yeah.
But there are definitely pros and cons of having a full frame sensor, especially going into it. ISO with a full frame sensor usually reads a lot better in low light due to the fact of it capturing more light.
Mm-hmm.
And because of it being a full frame sensor, the base ISO is 800. Max ISO is 409,000,
Oh my goodness.
which, I mean, you'll never have a situation where you won't have light. But the cool thing about this is that this is a dual native ISO camera. So at 800 in your log profile pictures, 800 is going to look the best until you get to ISO 12,800, which it hits this dual native ISO, and now it basically looks almost as good as the original base 800 ISO,
Yeah.
which in a small cinema camera, that is crazy. That is so insane to think about because you're like, whoa, that's unbelievable.
Yeah. And for those listening at home who, may not know much about cameras, maybe you're just listening to this to support us. And if you are, we thank you very much for that. But kind of imagine that it's getting dark and your eyes are adjusting, but the image is not quite there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of how you go from like 800 all the way up to like, let's say 12,700. It's your eyes are adjusting, but it's not quite crystal clear. And so you can see, but it's not great. 12,800 ISO is like just that dual native ISO. Try saying that 10 times fast. Jeez. Dual native ISO is like flipping on a pair of night vision goggles, except, instead of the weird green hues, you get this pristine image in low light. And it's brilliant. It's really awesome that they're putting this into not only a smaller, but a cheaper camera.
Yeah, exactly. And, it's got 4K at 60, it's got 4K at 120 frames a second slow motion, and it still does the 240 frames a second at 1080p, which is just boom. Because the crazy thing is, so that its big brother, the FX9, it doesn't have the 4K 120 or the 1080 240. It doesn't even have like the base the second base ISO of 12,800. It is second base ISO is 4,000, which is crazy less.
Yeah.
And so for me, looking at this camera, especially for the price range of it, this is a $6,000 camera, and people are like, "Well, I thought this was a budget filmmaking." It is.
Yeah.
But
Trust me, when you start looking at cinema cameras, 6,000 is a great price.
Yeah, it is a very budget camera. It also has built-in variable ND filters, unlike say like the Canon's, the C300,
300.
yeah, I'd say the C300 just for the fact because that's like kind of like one of its lower cinema cameras, I guess. Up until they released the C70, which is kind of in like a DSLR form factor,
Right.
but with this built-in variable ND filter, that allows you to go from, kind of like my variable ND filter from earlier. it allows it to be a natural instead of these hard stop ND filters where when you go from a situation it goes and it's hard. It's
Yeah.
not going to be a smooth adjusting.
Sort of like when you go
And
to the eye doctor and they're like, okay, is this better, worse, or best? Right? And they flip between those.
exactly,
You get that little kind of
exactly,
in between, but with this ND filter, you don't get that.
exactly. It is. This is smooth. This is nice and built in. It's also got time code for people who are trying to be very up with their audio. Like, okay, this is time code signature. This.
Mm-hmm.
Most audio recorders they have some kind of time code,
Yeah.
and so it just syncs it all up. It comes with a small little monitor, but the crazy thing is about this, it is so small.
Yeah.
Um, it is from I thought I wrote it down about how much it weighs, but I think the current weight for this is I just
If I
pulled it
remember
up.
correctly, it's around 4 pounds. I think I
Yeah,
saw
it
like Potato Jet do a video on it.
yeah, it's 2 pounds. It's
Two
half of that.
pounds. Oh, okay.
Yeah, it is a 2 pound camera, which thinking about it, that my Sony A7 III with the cage on it
Mm-hmm.
is more than that.
Yeah.
So to have all this crazy video specs, me wanting to do documentaries eventually,
Yeah.
this camera for me, because for a long time I was like, oh, I would love the FX9.
Yeah.
But for me personally, looking at this camera, and I'm like looking at it right now, I'm like kind of salivating just a little bit. Um, it fits me,
Yeah.
and I feel like this would be a camera because also the other thing is too is because eventually I would love to shoot raw capabilities
Mm-hmm.
for the video side. It can do 16-bit raw output.
Yeah.
And I mean that is almost equivalent to what you'd get from the Red Cinema
Yeah.
cameras. And so looking at that, I'm like the possibilities for cameras have just exploded. I mean, even the
Mm-hmm.
A7S or yeah, A7S III.
Yeah.
That I would love to get to a point where I could like sell my A7 III and get the Sony A7S III and have that be my backup camera to something like this because those two cameras, the files sizes are the exact same.
Mm-hmm.
It basically has the same exact S-Log tones, has the same exact color science, it has the same exact sensor basically more or less.
Right.
Those two cameras right there combined would still be less than the FX9.
Yeah. Yeah, it would.
And I'm invested in Sony Glass, so with it being E-mount as well, I mean, for me, I look at it, I'm like, man, that would be the perfect beginner dock camera because of the size and
Mm-hmm.
weight. You could take that on a plane. You could throw that in your bag and maybe a second body in your bag. Like, even if I was to use my Sony A7 III, I'd have two cameras that would weigh less than 6 pounds.
Yeah. That
And that to me is like, it screams like, wow, it's freaking awesome.
it's a beast. It's a beast. And you mentioned Red a little bit ago, and I think the reason they actually released this just now is to compete with the Red Komodo, which is a very similar camera. I personally would lean toward the FX6. I like that variable ND filter. But the Red Komodo, what you've got on that one is you've got, first off, a red camera for $6,000. A
Right.
brand new red camera for six. That's unbelievable. I'm not sure. Don't fact check me on this. But I'm pretty sure the next up camera from Red is in the $20,000 to $30,000 range when it comes to brand new cameras.
Yeah, I think the only one that compared to this, I mean, I still $15,000. I think it's a Red
Right.
Scarlet.
Oh, okay.
But
15,000. Okay. Still,
still, it's not
yeah.
like $15,000.
Yeah. Add that Red has never really had autofocus before. This is their first camera with autofocus, so that's a big thing for Red users. And I think the reason they made it was because they wanted sort of something like an action cam, like your little GoPro, but with cinema quality, something that was sturdy, robust, small, and compact that could fit in the back of a car during a car crash scene. But you're not getting that weird, compressed, overly stabilized image that a GoPro is giving you.
Yeah, yeah. It's same thing with the Alexa Mini.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why they developed it for like a car crash cam.
Yeah,
And then people were like, well, this sensor is the same thing as what it is in the big one. Why not just use it as a main cam?
right.
And no, you're right. You're right on with why they did it. That is, it's smart, and I feel like we're starting to see a big trend of people wanting to go smaller
Mm-hmm.
because you're starting to. I mean, cameras. Me looking back at cameras and me looking at how I've watched the industry grow in cameras for these past 6 years. You're seeing a lot more people wanting to take better photos in better places, which is why you're seeing in the phone cameras higher quality megapixel counts or 4K video. And while a
Right.
phone isn't a cinema camera by any means, what you can get out of a phone today is incredible.
Yeah.
And so I think it's making cinema companies go like, okay, if people are doing that in phones, we need to change our game, not step up our game, because you can't compete with an Alexa compared to an iPhone
Yeah.
12. But if you can get people interested in getting these smaller bodied cameras, these smaller bodied cinema cameras, or a little bit higher end mirrorless or DSLR cameras that have
Mm-hmm.
great video, you're gonna start to lock in a different audience that we haven't seen before.
Right.
With YouTube being so big, you got Twitch, you got Discord, you got I'm using my camera right now as a webcam.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing this huge trend of we need smaller yet extremely high quality cameras. And from the looks of this camera, it's 10-bit 422 internal,
Right.
like, let alone the 16-bit output that's raw.
Mm-hmm.
The 10-bit 422, that is great. That is so good. You
Yeah.
can work with the colors on that so easily.
Yeah. It makes it's amazing because tools for the amateur and for the hobbyist are becoming more and more accessible, and it's really, really exciting to see.
Yeah.
So that kind of flows into kind of my video news, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little late to the game here, whatever. But Davinci Resolve has released their beta for version 17, and it is fantastic. I downloaded the beta. I said I wasn't going to do it because I personally like waiting till bugs are fixed. But
Right.
from the reading I've done and from the editing I've done, I mean, we go to a production society club here on campus, and one of the things we'll be doing is I'm going to be teaching a little seminar on 3D integration and why student filmmakers shouldn't be afraid of CGI, which we may go a little more in depth in next week or the week after. We don't know yet.
Right.
But with DaVinci Resolve 17, you're getting a whole lot of features. They've made their user interface very awesome, where you can now drag and drop effects very much like Adobe Premiere. And they give you live previews of effects as you scrub over it. Those are cool, right? But
Right.
what really excites me is the magic mask. And if you had ever had to mask anything in Photoshop, you know that it can be a pain to get things precisely. Now imagine doing that for every frame of a video, right?
Right.
What DaVinci Resolve has done is they have made this GPU accelerated magic mask that within seconds or minutes, depending on how powerful your GPU is, calculates where your subject is, and you can select whether it's just their head, their arms. You can select what of their body you want to rotoscope, and it detects it, and it rotoscopes it for you. And it's not 100% perfect, but the fact that it is accessible in Davinci Resolve, which its barrier to entry as opposed to Adobe
Premiere
Premiere,
Pro.
right?
Yeah.
Adobe Premiere is a commitment, right?
Right.
And while, so for us, I mean, I'm not paying for Premiere right now. The school's paying for it. But if I were to as a student, it would be $20 a month. And not
Right.
as a student, it's $50 a month. That adds up quick, right? Premiere Pro, just gonna scratch my nose with my pencil real quick. Premiere Pro, its starting price is $299. You don't have to pay for updates. It's $299 flat out, right?
Right.
So a one-time purchase of DaVinci Resolve, I believe, I'm doing the math in my head, is cheaper than a student paying for a year of Adobe, right?
Right.
And that being said, if you buy one of their products like the Blackmagic Cinema camera, if you buy an eGPU, if you're a Mac user, any of that, you get a free copy of DaVinci Resolve. So that barrier to entry for that program is very low, which really excites me because not only is that barrier to entry low already, but they've lowered it even further by coming out with a free version that I've been using to edit for over a year now. And it does have a bit of a steep learning curve. I will give like, you know, the naysayers that it has a steep learning curve, especially the fusion page. Nodes can be a lot more complicated than just working in layers like in After Effects, right? But
Right.
once you learn how to do it, and you'll see, yeah, no, I won't throw it up. I'd rather show something more professional than what I'm preparing for on Tuesday. But once you know what you're doing, the capabilities are just endless, even in this free program. And the fact that DaVinci Resolve is making these tools available, like you said, like for cheaper, for the more kind of hobbyist, for the more enthusiast audience, right? Just shows how powerful and how much everything is just kind of trickling down so that we as young creators, I mean, right now, let's be real, we're hobbyists, right?
Right. Right.
You maybe a little less so because you actually go out and do photography and videography. But me, definitely, I'm a hobbyist. As much as I would love to have this as a career, I'm still in that hobbyist phase. But yeah, it's a really good time to be a creator because there's just so many tools available. And I think, man, this might be something I talk about every podcast just because it excites me so much, just how many things are available to anyone who's willing to learn them.
Right. Well, yeah, I totally agree, and I feel like maybe 10, 15 years ago, barrier to entry to things like what we're doing is way harder. Like, I mean, look at, heck, even my microphone, okay? Like, this microphone, possibly 10 years ago, and all it does is, you know, it sounds kind of nice. It's not too crazy in specs and features. No, probably 10 years ago, a microphone like this easily would have cost like $300.
Yeah.
But because we're in this age now of technology becoming better and better and cheaper, you know, you get something like this microphone that is $60.
Yeah.
You look at my light that is brighter than the Aperture 120D. There's specs in it that, like, I'll probably do like a video going over it. And actually, I'll probably, because I think that's what I'll do for some videos on me, because Ben has done a few videos for what he's working on in Blender.
Yeah.
But I think I'm going to talk a little bit about basic lighting and budget lighting. And my light, for how amazing it is, 10 years ago would have been at least probably $1,500.
Yeah.
Now it was $350.
Or,
which
10 years
still
ago,
sounds a lot, but
because it's an LED light. I mean, 10 years ago, it probably would have been even more than that, right? Just because of the fact that, I mean, we're in this transition point of is it halogen lights that
Tungsten.
tungsten? Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Uh, this transition from tungsten to LEDs, right?
Right.
And there are a whole lot of benefits that are coming from this transition. For example, more kind of color control in the LEDs. You don't have to use gels necessarily. Um, Tungsten gives off a lot of heat, which you don't get with LEDs. I mean, I've had a
Right.
tissue taped over this LED lamp for the entire time I've had this lamp, and I don't have to worry
Right.
about it catching fire or anything. If that was a
Right.
tungsten bulb,
Exactly.
yeah, I wouldn't be doing that. But yeah, no, we are in a very good time to be a creator. So if you are looking into like wanting to do something creative, I mean, just begin looking up what are the tools available to you, because I guarantee you that if you just start looking and you are willing to start learning, you are going to find something that you are just going to love and not want to give up.
Yeah, for sure. I totally agree. I'm just gonna adjust my volume really fast on my thing. No, I 100% agree with you. I think that we are seeing a big giant boom of people who want to create.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very excited for it. I'm very excited for people wanting to look at what's available.
Right.
And I think this is the time to do it. I think that we are going to one see price drops. We're going to see things. And one thing I might actually do for this week, just because it's Black Friday,
Mm-hmm.
I might see if I can make a video on Wednesday of things that are available, because one of the more popular video cameras for uh budget beginners for a long time was the Canon 80D.
Mm-hmm.
That camera brand new was like $1,300.
Yeah.
You can get one of those for right now $699.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that just goes to show, like, and is that camera a bad camera? No. It doesn't have 4K? No, but I mean, while both of my cameras shoot 4K, I mainly shoot in 1080p because I can upscale it to 4K.
Yeah.
Um, but that that just kind of just goes to show, like, we're in a time where you can get something so good at such a good price.
Mm-hmm.
And no, and we're kind of running out of time. One thing that we want to do just before we go, we have, like, because I mean, looking at my clock, currently we are chilling at about an hour and 30 minutes.
Oof. This is a long boy.
Yeah,
You know what? It's okay. I
this
feel
is
like we actually covered some good stuff though. So
yeah. No, we covered a lot of really good stuff. But one thing that we want to do is we want to do new ideas, because you were talking about wanting to make just more videos, because
mm-hmm.
we need experience. We need things to practice our techniques on. And yeah, we can talk about gear and we can talk about all these things, but at the end of the day, like, gear only gets you halfway.
Yeah.
So what ideas are you thinking about, my friend?
So I had the opportunity to interview someone from Corridor Digital. He was gracious enough to answer my Instagram DM and help me out with the school project that we've got going on. And one of my favorite pieces of advice was him. One of my favorite pieces of advice from him were, don't be afraid to create junk, because that's what you're going to learn the most from. And I think that is absolutely true, as especially someone who, I mean, honestly, I kind of breezed my way through my first couple of years of like grade school, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because of that, because of things kind of coming easily to me, right, I developed a really bad work ethic where I wasn't challenged very much when I was younger. And because of that, I didn't know what to do when challenges came.
Right.
And that is something I still struggle with now in school, where I have to intentionally tell myself, it's like, okay, something's coming up, you don't know how to do it, you need to kind of get over yourself and learn how to do it and get it done. And filmmaking or any other hobby can be kind of the same way, where you may be going along and thinking to yourself, oh, this is great, not really challenging yourself. But if you're constantly critiquing yourself and saying, okay, what am I doing and what could be better? Where could I improve? That's where you're going to learn. And when you're going to learn is when you mess up and you've got those kind of things where it's like, okay, yeah, I've got a lot of things to critique. Now let me apply them to the next project I do. So
Right.
what I have been thinking of is creating intentional jank, right? Not in the
Mm-hmm.
sense where we are going out and practicing bad habits by, purposely overexposing or purposely, just doing our colors all wonky, but more in the sense of we give ourselves as many restrictions as possible. And we've talked about an idea similar to this before, where we shoot a video all on our phones, edit it in Premiere Rush, something like that.
Right.
But we give ourselves as many restrictions as possible and use our knowledge, and what we can do to go out and make the best that we can do, right?
Right.
Now, those restrictions can be equipment, they can be time, they can be location. Any restriction that we can think of, we apply to ourselves, right?
Right. Right.
And then we just go for it. And the result would probably not be as good as if we were using all of our best equipment, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what I think we can learn from that is we will break down on the very minute details of what we are doing wrong, the principles, of filmmaking, right? Like we kind of said earlier, if you are going with the absolute most budget stuff and you are learning how to make your way around that, you are going to be so much better when you get in touch with your professional stuff, right?
Right.
So
Right.
it's kind of going through that process with ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. And so just because we're running, I feel like we're running out of time. Just to keep this as minimal as possible. I think next week when we bring back up this new topic about new ideas,
Okay.
we will start spitballing stuff,
Yeah.
different projects, and this week it's gonna be a little bit more busy for us. We're both trying to get ready for Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Happy Thanksgiving to everyone.
Yeah. Happy Thanksgiving.
Um, and so, but no, I really like this idea. I think this is a good idea for us to create these intentional learning videos. So we can say, all right, what would it be like to do a video dealing with a product?
Mm-hmm.
Making shots for that. Or, we're going to, you have a music video idea,
Yeah.
you know, whether we had to kind of figure out like a storyboard for it or trying to figure out locations and all the little variables that come in with that. So I'm really excited. I think this is a great section. But everyone, thank you so much for listening to our podcast today.
Yes. Thank you. We had 10
I
people yesterday. Hopefully we'll have, or 10 people last week. Hopefully we'll have more this week. But if you do take the time to listen again, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
we are really excited on this. Honestly, we talk about this all the time. We talk during the week. I'm always thinking about different ways we can do things. And no, I mean, I think this is just a really cool process that we're going through. But this is the Vented Media podcast.
It
This
is.
is I'm hoping something that we can continue to do. After we graduate, after we go on, I have a really good feeling like in our last class, our teacher was talking about look around. These are some of the people that you might work with for the rest of your life. And with Ben, I think that's a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so, no, I'm very excited for this. I'm excited for this podcast. I'm excited for the YouTube channel. We got Twitter.
Yes, we did. Go follow it. It is at Vented. I think the handle is at Vented M. I need to change that to Vented Media. But as of right now, it's at Vented M. Yeah, at Vented M. I'll link it in the description below. And if you're watching the video, I'll have it pop up on screen. We also have an Instagram,
Yep.
which is actually, I think, if I looked at my analytics, where most of you guys came from. But the Instagram is at vented.media. So
Yep.
go follow those. We'll be posting more stuff as we continue. We already have a post on Twitter where I was kind of showing off some CG work I was doing. Yeah, but keep in touch, you guys.
Yep. Yep. Thank you all so much. This has been awesome. And we can't wait to talk to you all next week.
All right. Have a good Thanksgiving, everyone. Bye.
See ya.